everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you all for the very first webinar of the APEA of this year. Today we are going to have a session on evaluation in single sector dependent countries, a case from Azerbaijan. And we look forward to hear more about how does this case of dependency on a single sector source affect governments, what's the challenge and the opportunities, and how can we promote evaluation in that case. So my name is Ogan Titik. It's Oga for short. I'm from Mongolia, and I'm a board member of Mongolian Evaluation Association and co-leader of Evaluate Asia. I will be the moderator of today's session, and I hope all of us are familiar with the house rules for the webinars, but just to remind, please kindly keep your microphone and video disabled during the sessions to prevent the load on the internet and to preserve the quality of the session. And if you have any questions and concerns, you can put them in the chat bar. We will address them during the Q&A session. And do not record the webinar because we're gonna share the official recording on the APEA website, and it will be available after the session. Okay, so let's now start the webinar officially, and now I'm happy to invite Mr. Emil Epa, who is the board member of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, for the opening remark. Over to you, Emil.
Thank you, Uga. Let me warmly welcome all of you for the first APEA webinar for the year 2025. Let me wish you all the very best for the year. And today is a special day because, you know, we are organizing this session with the Center for Evaluation, University of Sri Jawatanapura, and Azerbaijan Evaluation Association. So for the first time, we are going to hear from a colleague from Azerbaijan. So this will be a good opportunity to you all to learn about, experience about, Azerbaijan and, get more insights about Azerbaijan. So with that, I would like to, hand over to Uga to continue with the session. So once again, thank you very much for joining with us today and hope you will enjoy the session.
Yes, thank you, Emil. So now let me introduce our speaker for today's session. And our speaker is Nijat Garayev, who is, Yatin, can you please? Yeah. Our speaker is co-founder of Azerbaijan Evaluation Association, and he is an evaluation and program development expert specializing in the design and evaluation of civil society, social and rural development programs and projects. He has worked with government, international organizations, the private sector, NGOs, as a consultant or trainer, and support in the understanding, awareness, and capacity development of agencies and individuals. He is also a participant of the IPTED program, and he has conducted multiple evaluations in Azerbaijan over the past few years. So we're gonna have a very interesting session for the first time from the colleagues from Azerbaijan today. And over to you, Nijat.
Thank you very much, Uga. I am happy to be here and to talk about evaluation in countries like Azerbaijan, its challenges and opportunities. I'd like to share the screen. So give me a second. All right. Do you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like first to start with introducing Azerbaijan Evaluation Initiative. We are small group of evaluators, mostly from also civil society and the international development sector, who got together and decided to establish an initiative to promote the practice of evaluation as a tool, and to promote it towards the government and to promote it towards the private sector and civil society and international development sector, because our experience, hand-in experience shows in Azerbaijan that evaluation can indeed help a lot of policies and programs to become much more effective in their implementation. Our activities are basically promoting, sharing, and advancing evaluation practices, spreading the practice of evaluation for assessing results of policies and programs, increasing capacities of evaluators, and providing evaluation services to clients. Today, some of our members are also joined in this webinar, among them Zivar and Rehan. And today I would like to discuss about how evaluation is facing challenges and how these activities can be implemented in countries with high dependency on single sector resources, or single sectors, basically. So first, I'd like to proceed with the definition of single sector dependency, and then I will move on to challenges, opportunities, and promotions. So what do we mean by single sector dependency? In practice, oftentimes it is about oil and gas dependency, but you also have countries which are dependent on diamonds, for example, or you have countries that are dependent on migrant remittances, or in a single agricultural sector resource. And now that alternative energy is coming forth and electric vehicles are coming, we will probably have countries, especially in Asia and South America, that would be much more become economically dependent on rare earth metals like lithium and so on. And when a country becomes dependent on a single sector economically, that is so powerful, that this sector is so powerful, and if that country is a medium-sized or a small-sized country, population-wise, let's say, is not more than 15, 20 million, and economy size is small, then it basically ends up having above 80% of its exports dependent on a single product or a service, whereas about 50% of GDP at least will be tied to that sector. And this will result in series of consequences for the economy of that country. So what basically happens is that this country starts receiving a lot of income. This huge amount of income results in strong currency appreciation. So the national currency becomes very powerful, very strong. And this results in exports being very expensive. So, for example, you can observe it in all oil countries, basically, in Saudi and in many other countries where they have high oil dependency, including Norway. And Azerbaijan is one of them, and Nigeria and others. So exports become very expensive and imports become cheaper. And because of this, other sectors which should develop, other export sectors of the economy start losing in competition to other countries. They cannot compete on international markets. And therefore, they face disruption in these sectors, which affects labor markets, and basically education, because labor market is affected, education sector becomes affected, and this results in the weakening social institutions. And only the non-oil or non-main resource service sectors grow, while other sectors decline. And therefore, education becomes, on the long run, very specialized, basically specialized to provide human resources for the labor market, specialized in the service sector, which in the end also results in high income inequality, and also results in increased rent seeking. And rent seeking is basically academic name for corruption. Rent seeking becomes also the case because the government's budget, fiscal budget of the government in these countries becomes formed not from taxes, but becomes formed from the this export, from the money coming from the exports of this product or services. In Azerbaijani case, it will be oil exports. So, as a result, we are facing a strong political centralization. We are facing a dominant service sector and a strong role of government in economy. And this creates a specific challenges in terms of the evaluation. What happens is that government, because the government budget is formed through incomes of the product and service exports, not from the taxes, basically it reduces their accountability on the policies and programs they're implementing. And therefore, there is a general lack of interest in genuine assessment of their programs and policies overall. What we are also observing is that the levels of income that these countries have are way higher than the institutional, social, economic, institutional development of these countries. Whereas in terms of the institutions, they stand in, let's say, in par with lower income countries, while in terms of income, they become higher, medium high income country. And therefore, overall, there is a lower demand for evaluation. This is the first issue. The second issue is that a lot of people working for government, they do not really understand the meaning and importance of evaluation. They often take it as an auditing. They think evaluation of a program is basically its auditing. And therefore, this is partly also because education system now is not in par, is not equal to the amount of income the country is receiving. It is lagging behind. So therefore, capacities are weaker. And then, but it's not only about the government, of course, also in the private sector in general, and also in the civil society sector, domestic evaluation capacity is very low. You have very few good evaluators working mostly with international organizations. You don't really have organizations which can undertake a large evaluations as a team. So there's just no such capacity in the case of Azerbaijan, for example. And most international organizations which require evaluation, they use external evaluation experts from abroad. And that has its own consequences. However, there are certain opportunities which this creates at the same time. The first thing is that evaluation actually can become a tool for policymakers and for government, kind of an efficiency tool in order to optimize their strategies when they're designing these policies and programs. Now, of course, this is about all different types of governments, not just governments which are dependent on single resource exports. However, it is more so for such governments because these policies and programs are usually not much effective, and they're just, because of the strong role of government in economy, they are just designed in order to disperse, to share basically revenues across society. Whereas evaluation can help them really to improve this situation. And therefore, there is a chance, there's an opportunity to promote evaluation as an effective tool for increasing efficiency. Another opportunity or a good side of it is that this usually evaluators are facing a lot of resource constraints. We know that many governments who are actually interested in evaluation of their policies and programs don't have the necessary financial resources for it to cover, to at least to the sufficient extent. That is usually the main problem. While in countries like ours, the government has enough money to cover good quality evaluations of their policies and programs. So this creates a few windows of opportunities for us to intervene and support evaluation promotion. First, of course, is the direction of general evaluation awareness. That's through articles, workshops, organizing meetings, we can promote evaluation and increase overall understanding of evaluation and create kind of a concept of evaluation in society locally, not just among few evaluators who are often going to international conferences and have some networks abroad, but locally at local education institutions and also locally at government, that people would have an understanding of a specific meaning of evaluation as we mean it here today. Another approach we believe should be, based on our experience as well, to particularize. This means not to sell evaluation idea as a generic idea, but to make it very specific, targeting to towards the specific target group or the client, let's say, such as participatory evaluation or gender-focused evaluation. For example, often if government officials of a certain agency are worried about their lack of control over the process or the results of the evaluation, what can be offered to them is evaluation that is more participatory, that can be designed together with them and so on, so that they would feel more control or more at least informed about these processes. And this can increase the chances of buying their commitment towards evaluation. Another tactic we believe should be employed is targeting the inside of the hierarchy. That is not just promoting it overall towards the government, but focusing on specific agencies and specific government bodies and even people who would have more chance of valuing evaluation. And one important point here is to promote non-public, undisclosed internal evaluations as well, because in the end, the evaluation report will be the product of the government, and often they understand evaluation as something public, but instead it could be promoted as something very, let's say, non-public and internal, where they can use it internally, even if they, well, let's say they are more willing to accept negative results of the evaluation and take lessons out of it. And another direction is to emphasize the benefits, specific benefits of it for the central government. Even including in the direction of limiting rent seeking and so on in policies and programs, to understand where they can be more efficient, cost efficient. This is one more direction, this is one more direction where I would say even specific criterias of evaluation could be separately promoted. For example, either particularly impact evaluation or only, for example, using the efficiency criteria and saying that we can evaluate your programs just from the efficiency perspective, and bring you some sort of a coefficient or a graphic understanding of or visual understanding of how well are you standing in terms of the efficiency of your program or policy, instead of doing again very general promotion. And we believe that there should be work done to increase number of evaluators, number of people doing evaluation, which is not just only limited to evaluation capacities as such. We are often facing that some government agencies or even international organizations operating in Azerbaijan are issuing terms of references or a request for proposals for evaluation where they're not drafted accordingly. And when you read them as evaluation expert, you understand that the commissioner does not have sufficient understanding of evaluation, and therefore one direction could be trainings in terms of reference and scoping development. Another could be in the promotion of research methods, especially at universities and among the evaluators, because evaluation is in the end is a form of research. Another training could be offered or consulting to the government would be in evaluation management, so they can be better in the better control of the evaluation process. And the last point is that often, especially in such countries with a single resource dependency, visibility really matters much more than results for a lot of government officials. Basically means that they often see their policy and programs as a tool for their own career development, which is natural. It is, we are observing it everywhere. It is kind of a human condition. However, this point also, we believe, can be utilized because evaluation can also be used as a tool of visibility. Evaluation can produce a meaningful report tailored for public and tailored for upper sectors of the government hierarchy, upper sections of the government hierarchy. So basically, this is it. I wanted to keep it, I don't want to continue with a lot of details, but I'm happy to discuss the a lot of details in the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nijat. It was very interesting that for me, for example, at least in Mongolia, I think we have the same situation that our country is also mostly dependent on the mining sector, which is mostly coal and copper. And I think for me, it's the first time that I'm hearing the country situation from the perspective of this single source dependency and connecting it to the evaluation nature in the country. So thank you very much for sharing your experience and the situation of your country. And now we are going to move the Q&A session. And if you have any questions or concerns or clarifications from what we just listened, please do so. Ask and open your camera, open your mic and you can ask. So I saw there was a question in the chat. Let me check it. Yeah, there is one question. And for others, if you have any question, please write or just say it. And let me read it. It's from Hemantha Kumar. When you say exports are expensive, can you kindly explain how and why, please? And Jigme already shared his opinion on that. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see. Basically, what happens is that, so thank you very much. This is an important question. This is at the core of the impact of such resource dependency. What happens is that when Azerbaijan exports oil, which exports a lot of it, it starts receiving a lot of money. And the government takes at least part of this money, and this money is received in US dollars, for example. The government takes part of this money and wants to kind of infuse it in the economy through government budget, through policy and programs. Usually we're observing huge amount of infrastructure investments, for example. When they do that, they have to convert US dollars into the local currency. As soon as they do that, demand for local currency increases, and such demand significantly appreciates the value of the local currency. Local currency becomes very expensive. Its value against USD goes up. And therefore, of course, it works for government because people feel much richer. They can now go abroad with their average salaries and have amazing vacations. They can now buy a lot of stuff that are imported. Suddenly cars, German cars and Japanese cars become cheap for them, for the people. Suddenly they can have much more luxurious life. And for a country that is starting from the position of a low-income country, this type of jump in consumption experience is a very positive feedback on the performance of government, and therefore governments are not willing to restrain this type of currency appreciation usually, and therefore currency becomes very strong. Now, what happens to your exports of other sectors when currency becomes strong? For example, to your agricultural sector, they become much more expensive because labor is now paid in a very strong currency, which is now making the end product expensive for foreigners. So export value of non-oil sector products and services of Azerbaijan become much more expensive for others. And therefore, anything that we export, including services like tourism, including agricultural products and industry, basically cannot stand competition from neighboring countries. You cannot anymore compete in textile with Turkey or Iran. You cannot compete in, at some point, even Greece. To go to a vacation to a Greece or Italy is less expensive than to go to vacation in Azerbaijan. So where should millions of Russians go in summer? Would they go to Greece or Italy, or to Azerbaijan that is even more expensive than them? And this is basically the situation. And when this happens, all the other sectors basically crumble within just years. They just disappear. And when you go to a market, in a supermarket in Azerbaijan, over 90% of products are made abroad. And all those products that are produced locally, their value chain, over 90% is imported. And therefore, this is the situation a country faces with a single resource dependency, which creates the specific challenges. Sorry if I was a bit long in answer, but
No, 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 no. Can you hear me? I'm Hemanta Kumar. I'm the one who questioned you. Thank you very much
yes.
for a very detailed reply. See, the whole idea of this type of webinars is to get perceptions. See, we all might be thinking, I might be having a different definition for expensive exports, I mean,
Oh,
imports,
yes.
etc. But it's always good to get clarified so we get the right perception. Thank you so much for a detailed reply. Much appreciated, much obliged. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, also for the question. That is also helped us to hear more about the definitions, and it seemed like I'm hearing like exactly about my country. It's the very similar, the situation with Mongolia. So let me check if you received another question. No, not yet. So I encourage you guys to open your mic and ask a question. And while waiting for more questions, I have one clarification, more about evaluation. So what's the legal environment? Let's say like kind of maybe law or like procedures across the government organizations, etc. What's the legal environment for the evaluation? I mean, let's say maybe the national evaluation system, right? In that case, how does it work?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So about in couple of years ago, government adopted monitoring and evaluation guidelines for state programs and policies. However, it is only about monitoring, and it doesn't talk basically about evaluation. And government, even those agencies that are kind of responsible for evaluation, they do not understand what evaluation is. And I don't mean it in a sense that, oh, we understand what evaluation is, they really don't understand it. And no, not in this sense. The definition of evaluation for them is different. It is basically auditing. They're basically checking in evaluation if the activities of the program are implemented as they were intended to. This is all they're doing. So they're not like doing evaluation design and then developing criterias and then questions and then doing theory of change and none of this. So they don't have the same understanding of it, in a definitional sense. So that's why they don't have any evaluation framework. And we are separate government agencies are separately requesting evaluations if the people working in them, the management working in them, have an idea about evaluation. And evaluation as a tool always serves a very specific purpose. You want, as a government agency, for example, you want to understand if in a certain direction you are achieving your results as you are intended to, or if, for example, you can say I am evaluating the quality of implementation, or I am evaluating the impact overall, or you can evaluate whatever you want. Like, there are many options there. Only few people in government are using this as we mean. The rest of the government is not. There are basically no mechanisms or legislative framework for this. It is very new for our government, at least. And it is the case for many other countries, I believe, unless you have specific people in the management governments that are aware of this.
Yes.
Hello.
Did someone wanted to say something? Okay, I think it was maybe a mistake. Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, that is also the similar case for most of the countries, like when there is a system in place or like procedures. Yeah, I think there are some noises. Or is someone speaking?
You can go ahead, Uga.
Okay. Yeah, what I mean to say is it's I think, very similar case that when there is a system or kind of M&E place in government, it's mostly about monitoring, like checking or controlling, auditing, how did they perform, or like, but mostly about outputs or activities, like controlling their activities, right? Rather than like evaluating the outcomes or impacts of the programs and policies. And thank you for sharing that and bringing here. And we have one more question. Oh, it's from Jigme. Any ideas or just your opinions on sustainability with development in such type of nations or countries?
Yeah, it's also a very good question. Thank you. This requires, of course, a bit of thinking, but my immediate opinion would be that there is kind of a negative correlation between the income and sustainability. So when income becomes volatile and less money comes in, these countries start thinking about sustainability. When they have a lot of money pouring in, they don't really think much about sustainability. They much more care about kind of increasing number of policy and programs because it works for everyone, and however they are designed, it doesn't really matter. But right now, many of these countries are facing a lot of volatile situation because of this condition of the world economy and the shift in energy sources to alternative energy. Especially all these oil and gas countries are facing revenue reductions, and they are kind of forced to think about sustainability, and therefore including environmental sustainability, and therefore they are now, in the last couple of years, we are observing, no surprise, that countries like Azerbaijan is talking more and more about more sustainable programs and projects. But the most effective way of designing better programs and projects is through evaluation. Evaluation provides these tools to basically assess the design of your program and project and improve the design. I am putting aside the implementation, just the design of it. And therefore, again, from this perspective, it can be promoted that evaluation, even if the name is misleading, can be a powerful design tool for government to formulate their policies and programs. In Europe, we're observing that they have impact assessments. These are at the start of any large projects or programs that they're implementing. They conduct impact assessments projecting potential impacts of the program and project, which is kind of also a form of evaluation methodology that they're applying, which the governments can take on. It's not a summative evaluation, rather a formative evaluation, but nonetheless, it is an evaluation. So yeah, from this perspective, to answer shortly, they're not much in the mindset of sustainability. We're having this issue with even economically advanced countries with strong social economic institutions. Even they don't really often consider sustainability as a major thing, let alone the countries that do not have such strong social economic institutions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions? Let me check. There's no more question in the chat.
Can I ask you something directly now?
Of course.
Yes.
Mr. Nijat, actually, in Azerbaijan, what type of development sectors are taking place now? What type of development activities taking for the? Are there a big percentage of disadvantaged people or marginalized people for whom some social projects are happening? Are there any such projects in Azerbaijan happening? What about evaluation of such projects, programs, etc.? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah. There are many such projects happening, especially by government. Part of them are covered through policies. Part of them are covered through programmatic interventions. In such countries, especially also in Azerbaijan, economic development process is led by the government, not by the private sector. What happens in practice is that government issues a state program, for example, on the development of underprivileged populations. And then this program would be worth millions and millions of dollars, implemented over 5-6 year periods, and cover the whole country with thousands of beneficiaries, which would have partly infrastructure elements and partly social and capacity development elements and so on. They're complex programs. It doesn't mean that they're implemented well. And this is exactly the point. They are not evaluating them. After implementing a program that is worth $30 million, the government is not evaluating this program. They're just designing and implementing another one. And this, what they do is they are monitoring it, like auditing it. And then based on this auditing reports, which basically reports on the implementation of activities, they just move on. This is exactly why we believe that evaluation creates a strong entry point for government to assess the effectiveness of these programs, even at least internally, or at least in various components, or at least in just one criteria. And because evaluation is such a broad topic, you can offer whatever combination you want to the government to make it very specific about one of their policies or programs. Apart from the programs, they are also implementing a lot of policies in the sense of, for example, unconditional cash transfer payments for thousands of people, or some sort of support for youth in their capacity development, trying to, and these are just like one-time measures, not complex programs, just one-time measures made of one activity based on a policy. And these are also not evaluated. Are they impactful? What kind of side effects do they have? What kind of social impacts do they cause? What do people think about these programs? What are their opinion about this? Nothing. Yeah. So it seems like these programs and policies are just mechanisms of distribution of revenue across the society, instead of serving their purpose that is written on paper. I have worked in programs and projects in Georgia, neighboring country, and in Turkey a little bit. I met some government people and discussed with them. In these countries, they are way different. They are actually evaluating their programs and projects, and they are still, of course, there are many issues, but they are somewhat trying to understand what type of impact they're having, so they can make better use of it, even if they're gonna use this to promote their own position in the government, even if they are using it to get more votes at elections as municipalities or as the central government. Doesn't matter, they are still using evaluation and reports. They are referring to evaluation reports when doing that. Evaluation is kind of source of information for them. But in our country, that is not the case. And as far as I researched, a similar situation is in the oil-rich Arabic countries or in oil-rich African countries. More or less the same situation. But now they are often discussing, at least in narrative, that they need to make these programs and policies more efficient. They cannot just waste money anymore, etc., etc. And here we believe that evaluation can have a role, a position. Maybe it's not going to be a major thing in the next few years, but at least we can start from somewhere. Number of evaluators in Azerbaijan are maybe, Azerbaijan is a 10 million population country. Maybe we have about 6 evaluators individually working, and 3 of them are working with international organizations. That's the situation. There is not a single organization that is undertaking any sort of evaluation. So basically, this is the situation, and I believe there are many opportunities.
I have 3 more sub questions out of this. I'm sorry if I'm taking your time, but you're sounding so interesting, and this is the first time I'm speaking to an Azerbaijani person. So I'm making the maximum out of it. Please excuse me for that. Number one, are these when you say that audits are taking place, are they doing any planning audit, budget audit, process audit, work audit, any of those things in so many components, or simply a financial audit? Number one. Number two, when the government is giving this money, the distributing the money, are they doing it directly, or are they doing it through some non-governmental organization or civil society organizations? Number two. Number three, now that you have a small organization there, to what extent do you think your efforts can influence the government in helping to increase the awareness of evaluation and its importance in the country?
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, as time is approaching, can you please briefly answer?
Yes, sure. Mostly it's financial audit. Sometimes it is activity report, monitoring of activities. List of activities that have been implemented, check, check, check. On government's implementation mode, they do everything. They do direct implementation. They do via private sector tenders. in the private sector, and they do via NGOs and non-government institutions. So they have all of them. Sometimes these programs are very large, so they have mix. And the third point, of course, we cannot influence government much. We are not illusioned that 3 or 4 young evaluators are going to change government's attitude and approach towards evaluation. No, but we believe over the course of years, step by step, if we organize a lot of events, promotions, publish articles, meet government officials, continuously do it and increase capacities, we believe that step by step we will get there where certain government officials will start paying attention to it, and maybe then it will be like a multiplier effect, and so on. Plus, if we have few showcases to show, if we have few evaluations, commissions, small ones, this can have a big effect on the way the government looks at evaluation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the people who asked questions. And I see that there are 2 or 3 more questions in the chat, but now we cannot address them. So if you have any more questions, maybe you can share, send it to APEA team, and then maybe like depending on the questions and the nature of the discussions, we can schedule for more discussion if needed, right? So now let's move on to the next session. And for now, the next part of the session is the group photo. So I would like to ask all of you guys to open your cameras and show us your beautiful faces to join for a group photo. This is the very first group photo of the APEA webinar for the year. So Ahmed, are you ready?
Yeah, please open your camera, everyone. Okay, we have 2 pages. This one. This 2. Oh, thank you.
Smile. Done? Is it done? I cannot hear anything. Is it my connection?
Yeah,
I hope he did.
Well,
Okay.
I have opened my camera, but I don't know whether you have taken my shot or not.
Hello.
We can see you very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes.
So do I
Okay,
close
so
myself?
now,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now let's move on to the next session, next part. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Jigme Sonam, who is board member of the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, to share the summary of today's session. Over to you, Jigme.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you all are. My name is Jigme Sonam, and I serve as a board member or board of trustee for APEA. Just to keep it short, since we're a little short on time, I felt that after listening to the presentation, especially on a topic that is quite relevant yet different for me, since I serve in the environment sector, and this, although it has attachments to environment sector, it deals mostly in the finance part and in the evaluation part. So in this, I feel that the key points to take out of this would be, in my opinion, the characteristics of single sector dependency, as how it was already mentioned here, how it can lead to a currency appreciation, decrease in exports, and so on. The second point would be the challenges to evaluation, because this would, due to the sudden increase in finance and revenue generation, as it was already mentioned, it can lead to certain mindsets that keeps you away from sustainability and leads you more towards development. Opportunities in evaluation, as it was already mentioned again, we need to create scenarios where evaluation is needed. And this is a clear example of why evaluation is needed and why evaluation needs to take place. And finally,
Long-term
strategy.
evaluation. society together. That's how you're saying. Okay.
And finally, the fourth point, strategies to promote evaluation, especially in sectors of awareness and training. We have to find the targeted audiences, or we have to find the targeted approaches as well of how to deal with it. And mainly for capacity development, knowing where to focus on and who we have to train. And basically, with all of that out of the way, evaluations can lead to more efficient and informed policy making. And therefore, by reframing perceptions and building capacity in single sector dependent countries, we can leverage evaluation as a transformative tool. So, excuse me. In conclusion, I would like to give a special thank you to our speaker, as well as Uga. And just to end it, we'll be sharing the webinar recording and additional resources soon. And if you have any further questions or feedback, do not hesitate to reach out to us. And once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jigme, for the very effective summary, like you're a professional evaluator. And so now let me share a few announcements and updates of the coming events. And as you may know, APEA Asia Pacific Journal of Evaluation is now having a call for accepting the next round of papers and articles, and the deadline is January 25, very soon. And please visit the APEA website if you are interested. And the next one is on February 23. We are going to have the 13th capacity building training for YEEs on topic of enhancing evaluation through art-based participatory approach. And here's the registration link. And you can also find the registration link from the APEA social medias. And then the next one is we're gonna have the 5th APEA conference this year in November in Tokyo, Japan. So the informations will be released soon. So keep in touch with us. And the next one is, oh, there's no more. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending and having an effective discussion with us today. And with that, now let me close the webinar officially. And thank you everyone, our members, our team, speakers, and the participants. Thank you everyone. Goodbye.